And on that note, I'm just going to give you a 30-second warning and we will start in 30 seconds. Thank you.
Darlene, we're going to change your business card. So it won't have Darlene Bragg. It'll be Darlene 3303.
Right. Makes sense.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'd like to get started. You have with you today the district education team and several members of the Board of Education, and we'd like to welcome you. The district education team would like you to know that this is the first of 5 live strategic engagement sessions that we will be conducting, and we will be reflecting at the end of each presentation to tweak the subsequent presentations to ensure that you get the best possible quality moving forward. So thank you for joining us, and we'd love to get started.
Notes. Amasa.
We'd like to gratefully acknowledge that we are conducting the business of the Board of Education on the traditional territories of the Gitxsan, Haisla, Tsimshian, and Niska territories. We are honored to live, work, and learn on these territories, and we're honored to work with the children. As a means of introduction, I would like to start first by introducing members of the district education team. Good morning, everyone. My name is Janet Meyer, and I'm the superintendent of schools.
Agnes, you're on mute.
Good morning. My name is Agnes Casgreen. I'm a Director of Instruction for Indigenous Education.
Good morning. My name is Geraldine Lawler, and I'm a Director of Instruction for Graduation and Innovation.
Good morning. My name is Julia Nakaz. I'm Director of Instruction of Learner Support.
Thank you very much. And this morning, I believe that we are pleased to welcome 3 of our 6 trustees on our first strategic planning session, unless I'm mistaken. So if I could please invite first off Board Chair and Trustee Margaret Workup to introduce herself.
Good morning. I'm Margaret Workup, and I'm your trustee from Terrace and your current board chair.
And Trustee Raj.
Good morning, everyone. I am Trustee Raymond Raj from Kitimat, and I am your board vice chair. And I welcome you all, and I am glad to be with you.
Thank you, Trustee Raj. And Angela Brandenuser is a representative of Stewart. Trustee Watson is a representative of Thornhill, and I'll invite Trustee Yonkman to introduce herself.
Good morning. My name is Karen Yonkman. I'm a trustee of Kitimat. Good morning, everyone.
And Shar McCrory is a representative, Board of Education representative from Hazelton. As a means of introduction and setting the stage for strategic planning, we would like to share with you this video.
What will education look like in Coast Mountain schools in the next 5 years? What if you had a say in shaping that future? Being able to identify what's important, what we should value, what we need to anticipate and prepare for?
Amasa. My name is Janet Meyer, and I'm the superintendent of schools for Coast Mountain School District. It's time for us to ask you, the people invested in Coast Mountain School District, to share your thoughts, ideas, priorities, hopes,
and dreams for the next 5 years. It's a blank slate, if you will, to share ideas and perspectives. Your feedback, including key themes, will be shared and analyzed by the Board of Education.
Hi, I'm Margaret Workup. I'm a trustee from the Coast Mountain School District, and currently I'm sitting as board chair. We're asking you today to participate with us in a new challenge that we have in developing a new or a revised strategic plan. Strategic planning being a very important process where we look at how the future is going to be in our district, how we can serve our students, how we can continue to have excellence in the provision of education.
Quite simply, the question we're asking is, what do you value most about Coast Mountain Schools? And what can we do better to prepare our students for the challenges and opportunities of the future? As superintendent of schools, I have 4,400 reasons why strategic planning is important. Every one of our 4,400 students deserves the best possible experience in school. We have designed a process that will allow you the opportunity to have as much input as you wish. We very much want to hear your voice and have your voice included in the discussion with the Board of Education on the direction of our school district.
So what we're asking today is for you to think, reflect, give us input from everyone. What can we do in education so every student has success in their pathways through education? What can we do to be efficient, be effective, be accountable for what we do in education? How can we be inspiring for the future?
This is your opportunity to shape the future of Coast Mountain Schools in the next 5 years. It is my sincere hope that you will join us and share your thoughts about the future of Coast Mountain Schools, because together we are better.
And just before we move on, it's important to note, and it is of a significant priority for the district education team and the Board of Education, that this upcoming strategic plan not be created without the voice of all individuals necessary to create a comprehensive and cohesive plan. So we've adopted the hashtag NAUWU. And the video will explain what that stands for. But the point I would like to make at this time is that we are staunch in our belief around student voice and the power of student voice and the importance of student voice. And during this process over the next 2 months, we will be reaching out to not only families, community leaders, elders, members of Indigenous communities, but as importantly, if not the most important, we will be reaching out to students. So this video should help clarify that.
You might be wondering what this hashtag means. This hashtag stands for nothing about us without us. And we have adopted this hashtag related to our strategic planning process. We are using it as a reminder and an emphasis around the audiences that we need to engage with to get as much input as possible into the future. Is it appropriate that the Board of Education set direction for the next 5 years without the voice of particularly students, parents, Indigenous rights holders? Clearly, the best process will be one that as many voices as possible are heard. So when we reference hashtag NWUWU, we're referring and reminding ourselves of the importance of hearing all the voices, particularly those of our students. Consider this quote from Michael Fulham. He says, "When large numbers of people have a deeply understood sense of what needs to be done and see their part in achieving that purpose, coherence emerges and powerful things happen." Toyoksa-Knusen.
So we're just going to move into, so I'll just remind you of who I am. So my name's Juliana Kars, Director of Instruction here. So it's important that we look to the past before we move to the future and celebrate our achievements, because there is a great deal for us to be proud of. So there's been extensive work completed in the district around numeracy. Carol Fullerton has become a friend of the district, working with Numeracy Teachers Focus Group, leading learning around numeracy engagement and developing the numeracy assessment. And I'd like to note that this is being sought after by many districts across the province, so it's something that we should be very proud of. We have had Brad Marsden, Joe Kroner, Monique Graysmith, and Dr. Lorna Smith all be friends of the district. They've provided professional learning opportunities to all staff. They have been teaching us, guiding us, and helping each person individually acknowledge their part in truth and reconciliation. Colleen Austin is also supporting the school district to understand the work of language revitalization and the role that we play. There's also and continues to be extensive work with the understanding of literacy, specifically in the primary and elementary years, with the use of cafe reading and blitzing. We have more graduation options and pathways than ever before being offered to our grades 10, 11, and 12 students, with the introduction of several new bar courses and multiple options around the trades program. We are one of the first school districts to offer the new cybersecurity new curriculum as a course, which is very exciting. Young students are also involved in Youth in Trades program, and there are various outdoor education programs across our district and also robotics. So schools have immersed themselves in social emotional learning. Schools are running a variety of different programs to support understanding in emotions, developing strategies, and becoming more mindful so they can be present, relaxed, and engaged in their learning. It's always really joyful to celebrate so many successes in our school district.
Good morning again. My name is Geraldine Lawler, and I am Director of Instruction for Graduation and Innovation. I'd like to speak with you about data collection and analysis. In order to meet the needs of all learners across School District 82, we require a deep understanding of their strengths, where they are with their learning, and where they would like to go with their learning. In the next several slides, we will show you the results from several different types of assessments, which serve different purposes. By collecting data from multiple assessments, we're better able to understand the story of each learner, develop personalized plans to support individual growth and development, and ensure student success. The collection and analysis of this data helps to provide valuable information to parents and educators, allowing us to continue our work together, addressing unique needs of learners, and it aids in long-term strategic planning. The Student Learning Survey is administered each year to students in grades 4, 7, 10, and 12, along with their parents and staff in all BC public schools. The survey serves to gather information about the educational experience and covers a range of topics. Typically, students are asked to answer between 50 and 60 questions, and we've chosen 3 questions to review here. These 3 questions are valuable in providing insight for us on how students feel about their school and their educational experience. The first of which is, do you like school? The second question we've chosen, do you feel safe at school? And the third question, how many adults at your school care about you? We know that if students like school, feel safe at school, and have at least 2 adults that believe they will be a success, they are more likely to attend regularly and be successful. Students in grade 4 and 7 write FSA, or the Foundation Skills Assessment, each year. It assesses reading, writing, and numeracy skills. The FSA is BC's earliest provincial indicator of student performance and provides strong evidence of future achievement. This data helps us to develop the story or profile of a learner and enables us to identify the types of supports to be put in place, ensuring that each student is on the path to graduation.
Good morning. My name is Agnes Casgreen, and I want to talk to you a little bit more about the data. Much of the data comes from a report called the How Are We Doing report, where it presents data around total student body versus the Indigenous student body. And so the first slide is around English 10 versus English 10 First Peoples. You can see by this graph that it looks like when students take English First Peoples 10, they do better than in the regular English. The next one combines Form 10 Pre-Calculus and compares it to Workplace Math 10. Form 10 or Pre-Calculus 10 is a math program that opens many doors for students. It would get you into colleges and universities. Workplace Math 10 also opens many doors, but it is more limited in the number of doors that are open. Okay? Both are valuable. Both will open doors for you in the future. But consideration, students might consider which math they take depending on what they want for the future. Six-year completion rate is important for us to look at. We know that when students enter in grade 8 and finish in grade 12, that's really only 5 years. But we look at 6-year completion rate. And that is because students, it gives them more time to have room in their schedules to take extra electives, to do deep learning, or to learn about more of their interests. And it also gives them some flexibility, some spares. It's not such a tight schedule. So most students take 6 years to complete. And so that's why we look at this graph.
The Grade 10 Numeracy Assessment is a provincial assessment and graduation requirement that assesses student proficiency in numeracy. It requires students to apply their knowledge using 5 numeracy processes, which include interpreting, application, solving, analyzing, and communicating their learning. Students are assessed on a 4-point scale. 1 is emerging, 2 is developing, 3 is proficient, and 4 is extending. This assessment includes 24 common questions, a student choice component, as well as an opportunity for students to self-reflect, and the self-reflection component is not scored. The Grade 10 Literacy Assessment is another provincial assessment and graduation requirement. It assesses students in their ability to think critically and make meaning out of a variety of texts, communicating their ideas. Like the Grade 10 Numeracy Assessment, it too is scored on the same 4-point scale and has the same type of format. Students have the opportunity to retake these assessments up to 3 times prior to graduating, and their highest score will be reflected on their transcript. The results of these assessments do not affect a student's school grades. As we reflect on all of this assessment data, we recognize that teachers in the classroom setting do the majority of assessment of student learning. We acknowledge that all of this information collectively is instrumental in our planning for continuous improvement. If you're interested in reviewing any of this data, you can check out the data on our Coast Mountain School District website.
But we know that there is much more in getting ready for adult life than reading, writing, and numeracy. There are other things to consider, and our schools offer students the opportunities to learn a number of skills, not necessarily falling under the umbrella of literacy or numeracy. School needs to be a place to explore and discover your passions. It needs to be a place to practice social interactions and learn about relationships. It needs to be a place outside of family where there are people who care about me and my success. It also needs to be a place to think about and plan for the future, to safely tell my story and be accepted. It needs to be a place to learn life skills that are more than literacy and numeracy. It needs to be a place to grow into the person that I want to be.
So you may be wondering, what are the next steps? What do I do with this information? And for those of you who would like more detailed data information, we have that available, as Geraldine mentioned, on our website. And for the information of participants as well, this presentation is being streamed live to our YouTube channel and will be available to you at any time for you to revisit this presentation. So now to the ask. What is it that we are asking of you? To start off, we will show you a very brief video of the platform that we have elected to use for our strategic planning process, and it is called Thought Exchange.
As school closures and our distance learning program continue, we want to stay connected and hear your questions and ideas. We're using a tool called Thought Exchange to gather your input. First, you'll be asked to share a little bit about you and then answer one open-ended question. Next, you'll see your thoughts and the thought of others and assign stars to each thought ranging from disagree, 1 star, to agree, 5 stars. You can rate as many thoughts as you'd like. Thought Exchange keeps confidential who shared each thought and who assigned what ratings. You can come back as often as you'd like to star some of the new thoughts shared since you first participated. We will use the results of this exchange to determine our next best steps to support all students and families.
So the link to the Thought Exchange platform is again on our school district website. And once you click on the Thought Exchange link, you will be presented with the welcome page. The welcome page provides you with an outline, an overview of the Thought Exchange. It also has a video. The video that you've already viewed is embedded in the introduction, and it presents the user with the question, the overall guiding question that we are asking individuals. What are some things that you appreciate about our schools, and what should we focus on to make them the best places for every student to learn? That's the first screen that you will encounter as you enter Thought Exchange. And you would simply click on the Participate button. You'll be presented, as the video suggested, with a few introductory questions around gender, location, and your role within the organization, whether it be that of a community member, an elder, a community citizen, or an employee. Next, you will be asked to share your thoughts and rate the thoughts of other people. So you would share your thought on a screen that looks something like this. And the unique aspect of thought exchange that very much sold us on its use was the idea that people are welcome to share as many thoughts as they might like around our school district and their thoughts for the future. But not only that, participants are given the opportunity to star or to emphasize other people's thoughts. And that is in the star process that was referred to in the video as well. And it's a sliding scale from 1 to 5, depending on how much you agree or disagree with the comments or the thoughts made by someone else. So if you didn't think of a thought related to outdoor education, but someone else did, and you really liked that thought, you would rate that as a 5. And then every participant would go through thought exchange and do a similar process. And over time, we will be able to establish themes and commonalities throughout the platform. And another aspect around thought exchange is it's not a one and done situation. It's not, while it could be, because we've structured this strategic planning engagement process so that there are multiple points of entries for people, depending on their availability, the time constraints they have in their life. You could go to thought exchange, enter your thoughts and rate the thoughts of others. You could do it once and be done. You could, however, do it once, wait a week, and then go back and see what new thoughts have been shared, and you could rate the new thoughts should you wish to do so. So you can see that the process has been developed so that it's able to accept people's participation based on their availability. So the one question that we have again is, what do you value most? And what can we do better to prepare our students for the challenges and opportunities for the future? And at this time, I'd be happy to stop sharing my screen. But before I do, I'd like to draw your attention to the email address at the bottom of the page. If you have any questions or concerns or difficulties related to the use of thought exchange, or have any questions around our strategic planning process, you're more than welcome to submit your questions to the strategic.planning@cmsd.bc.ca email address, and that question will come directly to myself, and myself and district staff, we will reach out and respond to your question as soon as possible. So having said that, I would like to now stop sharing my screen. These are the people that we are planning for. Thank you, everyone. So there are no comments in the chat. I'm wondering if there are any of our 22 participants, and I'd like to acknowledge at this time as well that of the 22 people, we have many principals and vice principals joining us this morning. And I'd like to acknowledge them and acknowledge the fact that they took time out of their busy day to join us in our first strategic planning engagement session. So thank you to all of you who joined us, and we'll be very happy to accept your feedback later. Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any comments that they'd like to share around the process, around what the ask is, or any comments that people would like to make?
Janet, just a comment. First, the video looks great, very well done. But I see this more as like, and correct me if I'm wrong, so we say our strategic plan, but it's kind of like you asked, like we do our school goals or growth plan or however you might, whatever you want to call that. So it's kind of like our big growth plans, more or less, for the district, isn't it? Yes.
Indeed, Darlene. So that's a very it's well articulated, to put it that way. People need to understand the importance of this strategic planning process as it relates to the next 5 years in our school district. So when we show you that picture of those kindergarten children under the tree, the work and the direction that the Board of Education sets now for the next 5 years is going to impact those children until they are in grade 6, perhaps. So whatever direction we set at this time for the next 5 years, our budget should be aligned to reflect the goals that are decided by the Board of Education, and everything we do should be driven towards those goals that are outlined by the Board of Education. And that's where people have the opportunity now to say, hey, this is what's important to me, and this is what I would like to see reflected in the strategic plan. And I'd like to offer Board Chair Trustee Warcup. Do you have any comments on that?
I do, Janet, and I'm thinking you'd be comfortable, and if not, you can say so. What I tried to put on the video, and thank you for getting my voice on there and not many pictures. What I see with strategic planning is that this is the umbrella. It's the big picture of where the board wants to go. And the canopy of the umbrella is all of our strategic goals and what we want to obtain. We're going to write them in measurable language so that we can be accountable. And the spokes are all the things that you're doing in the schools, administration-wise, as well as educators, for budgets, for your school growth plans, for your individual service plans with children. And to me, the handle of the umbrella is our students, our families that care for the students, and our community that cares for the students that we serve. And the umbrella is also our educators, who are extremely valuable to be able to accomplish the canopy of the umbrella and the goals. So it is big picture. It is big thoughts, big goals, but they need to be measurable, and they need to be something that we can anticipate and try to accomplish for the future. But my best quote for strategic planning is one where, it is impossible to predict the future, but what can we be doing to ensure that we can embrace whatever comes through our door? And certainly this year we've done that with coping with COVID. We've reacted and changed and accommodated, and who knows what the future is going to be, but what can we set in our plans so that we're striving to do our best?
Thank you, Margaret. So Darlene, to answer your question, yes, that is the answer to your question. The direction that is set on May the 8th by the Board of Education very much will drive the work of this school district for the next 5 years.
Yes, and if you look at the pieces that are already included in your the video, and you talk about numeracy, you talk about literacy, and those vulnerable. And really our focus needs to be on not only our children that are well on their way, or our learners, those that are more vulnerable and struggling. And there are several pieces that you've already included. Like, for example, I say at my school, or we've stated one of our goals is literacy and numeracy. And we have like the work of Carol Fullerton, we have good assessment practice. So these are the pieces that fit together to drive the district plan as well.
Absolutely. And if I might make a suggestion, those thoughts that you just articulated to us just now should be put into a thought exchange so that that message is in the exchange.
Yes. And the social emotional piece that we know is hugely important.
Yeah. I would make, so you could do, Darlene, yourself, a thought around literacy, numeracy, and a separate and distinct thought around social emotional learning. That would be wonderful.
Yes, okay.
Thank you. I'm looking to see if there are no comments in the chat. Are there any members of the public on our call? I know that you are there. I'm just wondering if there's anyone from the public who has any questions or comments that they'd like to make at this time. Hearing none and seeing none.
Hey, Janet.
Hi.
Hey, it's Chris McKenzie here.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
Going well. How are you?
Good, thanks. Yeah, thanks for holding this and inviting people. Hopefully, in your other sessions, a few more people will attend. I was hoping more than 22 people would be here, but anyway, yeah, I took a few notes from your presentations and just kind of wondered on a couple of items where the follow through is. I'm here mostly because I have 5 children. I've never really had to become too involved with education because I didn't really have too much problem. Kids went to school, teachers taught, and kids came out with pretty decent grades. My oldest moved off to post-secondary education. My other 4 are still in between middle school and elementary school. But I do have one child that has brought me into the education world because she has a few deficits. And so some of the things that I saw in your presentation was great. But some of the questions I had was, for example, in your grade 10 literacy assessment, if I understand it correctly, 26% were still developing in the non-Indigenous group of people, and then in the Indigenous, 45% were still developing. To me, as a parent, that stands out huge. Why in grade 10 are those numbers so high for literacy in developing? And you told us those numbers, and I'm wondering if you guys can elaborate a little bit more on why that is and what's being done to hopefully, by the time younger kids get to grade 10, that literacy assessment is much better. My one child that I'm speaking of has 2 specific learning disabilities, one in reading, one in writing, so dyslexia and dysgraphia. So I'm really very focused on this topic.
That's an amazing question, Chris, and I'm so glad that you brought it up. And I mean, districts, we could talk for hours around literacy results and numeracy results and talk to you about what's happening in classrooms and the assessments that are taking place within our district. But it's a wonderful question. And those results are the results of 2 years, because the numeracy and literacy assessment at the grade 10 level has only been in existence for 2 years. And these are the results that we have, a snapshot, if you will, of where our learners are at. And yes, the results aren't that great. They aren't that great, and we acknowledge that. And we are taking the steps to address that by doing early intervention, by bringing in experts in the field of numeracy, by developing our own numeracy assessment. Our goal is to bring children. We started at the primary level, we started at the elementary level, and now we're moving into the secondary, a middle secondary as it relates to numeracy, to support that learning and to attempt to change the outcomes for students, so so over time, our trajectory on a graph, the number of students who are developing will decline and the number of students who are proficient will increase. That's our goal, and that's our work going forward. So as I said to Darlene earlier, I said that would be a great comment to put in a thought exchange. Chris, your concern around our assessment results, great thought to put in the exchange and make it a priority according to you. And with that, I could turn it over to one of the directors if they would like to comment or not. It's up to you.
Okay, and I appreciate that. And you say that you're doing some pre-screening or in the early grades now, are you, for maybe, I don't know, kindergarten or something, or grade 1, are you?
We do. We assess our students at every grade as it relates to literacy and numeracy. In kindergarten, we use the kindergarten screener to assess. So in kindergarten, it's a little bit different, but once students get to grade 1, as Geraldine and Agnes mentioned, we have created, with the assistance of Carol Fullerton, our own numeracy assessment, where we can break out certain components of numeracy and assess students on where they are at each level, all the way from grade 1 to grade 9 in numeracy. And then in literacy, we do exactly the same thing with a reading tool and interventions based on the results of the assessment. We use a tool called the PM benchmarks, and we track that information on a year-to-year basis. We can identify in our district where, well, minus COVID, okay, pandemic notwithstanding the pandemic, we can on an annual basis identify where every learner is in every year related to literacy and numeracy. And that information then guides us and directs us in terms of the correct intervention for individual students.
Okay. Okay. I don't really, for myself, for my daughter, I don't really see a lot of intervention from the school. Maybe I haven't pressed or tried hard enough. So I went outside the school and got a private tutor because my daughter, she was doing some with the you call it the education assistant or
An education assistant or
no,
resource
teacher, resource teacher, yeah. So she went for the resource teacher for a while, but in a while, I mean, maybe 3 or 4 weeks at max, and it just didn't work out. I'm not 100% sure what the resource teacher was or wasn't qualified to help my child in the type of situation that she was. But basically, because my child would shut down and the resource teacher wasn't able to help her and get through that, I've since, hired a tutor who specializes in, structured literacy, specifically the Orton-Gillingham method. And yeah, my grade 2 8-year-old now is, she went from in April 14th, 2020, she went from pre-kindergarten reading level to now she reads at grade level because I went and got a tutor.
That's great, Chris. I wish that all of our learners had the engagement of their families the way that your daughter and your other children do as well. Just going back to the comment that you made around the interventions at the school level, as a parent, I would encourage you to be as involved as possible and ask questions of the school, because you're clearly very knowledgeable about where your children are at in their learning, and very knowledgeable on where they need some support. I would strongly encourage you to stay very connected to your school community and ask questions about where your daughter is at with her learning and what interventions are at work or being used at the school level.
So thanks for that. For myself, I'm actually not overly concerned with my daughter because I feel like I've got a lot of help outside. I have a play therapist for her. My wife and I, we do a little behavior therapy as well, specifically for how to help her. And she has her specialized tutor. What I'm more looking for or hoping for is the people that aren't maybe perhaps as like me, the people who aren't understanding where their kids are or aren't really understanding how to help. That's what I'm more looking for.
That's
how the education world can help those people and those families, because there's likely parents out there that don't really know what's wrong, don't understand why their kids are having trouble or having meltdowns. Mm-hmm. And there's probably reasons for it. And I think 26% developing in a literacy assessment says a lot of families having trouble.
Indeed, I couldn't agree more. And I really appreciate your comments and encourage you to put those comments forward in the thought exchange. Because, and what I also appreciate about your comments, Chris, is that your comments are not about self, they're about others and the need for others to have the skills that you and your partner have too. So
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
I'm not sure if anybody else wants to comment on that.
I just want to say, hi, Chris, my name's Julia, that it's really important to have parents that are good, strong advocates, because it does create change for all. And then as a parent going into a school to ask questions and explore the avenues available within each school, strives each school to show and explain what they are doing. So there are many resources and opportunities and programs available at every school, and our resource teachers are all trained and have extra levels of professional education around special education. But it's a place to be improved. There is definitely many pathways that we need to travel to make better inclusive environments and follow UDL practices and employ RTI. And I'll use those acronyms because I feel that you're very comfortable with understanding all of the concepts around taking care of kids with special needs or specific learning requirements. Orton Gillingham is a particularly comprehensive program that takes quite a lot of specialist training to be able to administer that as support to a child. And it's because it's such a multi-sensory approach. So, another one to explore that I've actually just bought a pilot system to work with a school is the Linda Moo Bell system. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I have heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, and often we find it's very interesting. Humans are all very, very different, and we all need very different things to learn. And I think teachers getting far better at understanding that differentiated instruction and adaptations within a classroom help kids feel more relaxed, feel engaged, and then they're able to access those higher learning qualities. So, I do just want to say, reaching out to schools and pressing and asking questions. I know Darlene wanted to dive into, because she has a phenomenal team at her school working with our primary kids on a variety of different programs for literacy and numeracy. I could see her hovering in the background. She's like, oh, but we have this. So yeah, we all care very deeply, and it's great to hear how much you are taking care of your child. So
Thanks. Yeah, no, oh, sorry, go ahead, Darlene.
What I just wanted to add to that, Chris, is you do raise some really, really important points. And I think the most important piece for all of our learners is that they feel successful. So when you say things like, that your child isn't at grade level, and that is a concern for sure. What we want to watch for more specifically, though, is that there's growth. Because sometimes it would be unrealistic for us to say that every child will be at grade level, given their level of needs. But for certain, we want to be able to say we are seeing huge growth from September until June. And so it's really important that we keep our eye on all learners, that we evaluate the interventions that we are using, because there are many interventions. And when I observe and speak to learners and educators in this school, I too want to know that we are doing the very best that we can for our learners. And I need to know when it's not working. So Chris, you do raise lots of really important points. We want all of our learners to feel successful. They still hold their confidence. It's when they're not feeling successful and they feel that they're not being supported that we're then challenged with the loss of confidence and those kinds of things.
Exactly, yeah, sure, exactly. Yeah, I had something else, but I lost my thought. So thanks very much.
I noted that there was a chat, or there was a question from Aaron in the chat around it's an equity issue in terms of access to bandwidth and Wi-Fi. And Aaron's question was around how people can participate in the thought exchange if they don't have access to that. And that's a great question. That's why we created, first of all, the email address, which may or may not be helpful for individuals in that circumstance. However, anyone can submit a thought to their neighborhood school on a piece of paper if they so wish. They can take it to the office, give it to the principal and say, please add this to the thought exchange for strategic planning so that everyone's thoughts can be heard. And Erin, I'm not sure if that answers your question sufficiently. Is there anyone else who would, I'm noting the time is 10:52. I'm wondering if anyone has are there any other comments or questions?
The only other thing that I wanted to say is my daughter, of course, had social emotional issues as well. She's emerging. She's kind of getting out of that a little bit. And I really noticed this year that the school, she goes to Kildala School in Kitimat, that the school here anyway, brought in social emotional piece. And I off the top of my head, I can't remember what they did and what they were doing, but I don't recall that in previous years. So I don't know if that's something new. If it's something new, great, that's thumbs up. So if it's been going around for a while, that's a thumbs up too, I guess. But yeah, I just realized it and took note of it this year.
Great point, Chris. And you would have noticed it this year because as a result of the pandemic, we needed to take very definite and clear steps towards the use of social emotional learning. And it has been in existence for years. Many schools use what's called the zones of regulation. You know, I'm in the red zone or the yellow zone or the blue zone. And so many schools have been using that, but it very much has come to the forefront in the last 10 months with COVID and taking care of the wellness of people and including students. Not seeing anything, just asking people to please take the time to visit our thought exchange, add your thoughts, rate the thoughts of others, and visit us multiple times to see what new and exciting information has been added to the thought exchange. I've been planning a conversation with principals and vice principals for later this week and talking about how do you spice up thought exchange? How do you make thought exchange and strategic planning sexy, if you will, and make people excited about it? It's a pretty difficult task, but I feel like when we look at that picture of the kindergarten students under the tree, that for me, that brings it home for me, because those are the people we're working for. And those are the people the Board of Education will set direction for, and it will benefit all of our learners. So, you know, strategic planning might not be sexy, but it's super important. And just before we go, I'm going to acknowledge Erin's other question. There are follow-up meetings scheduled. So Erin, this is the first of 5 live meetings. And every one of the 5 live meetings is being streamed directly to our YouTube channel. So within an hour after this first initial live meeting, you will be able to rewatch this session on YouTube. And that will be true of session 2, of session 3, 4, and 5 as well. So at the end of 5 sessions, even if someone hasn't had the opportunity to participate live, they can revisit any of the sessions via YouTube. Actually, you can watch all 5 if you'd like. So for those of you on the call today, please reach out to your friends, reach out to your family, share with them the link to our website that has all the YouTube links, and we hope to see some of your friends and family next time. And with that, I thank everyone for participating and hope you all have a wonderful day, and thank you again.
Okay, I think it's just Carol and Ginger, and I think I'm assuming that's Travis.